What's up, y'all? So today I learned about Amazon S3 as well as another cool thing that AWS has, which is called AWS Well-Architected Framework. So let's go ahead and learn about these things. And I also want to give a practical example of hosting a static website on Amazon S3. I learned all of this through the AWS skill builders. I'm trying to collect this badge over here. And yeah, first off, let's learn about what AWS Well-Architected framework is. To put it simply, AWS Well-Architected framework allows us to build proper and scalable designs very, very effectively. Essentially, it helps us design these systems. All right. Now, it offers three different tools within this whole framework, and that is the hands-on labs or challenges that you can have, the AWS Well-Architected Partner Program. All right, and this you're just gonna have different partners. You can see it's accessible through here. All right, these are the different partners that you can have. It's basically just in-depth training to allow you to figure out how you can implement best practices, right? Measure workload states and make improvements where required. So essentially, training, same as the hands-on labs, but you're essentially taking the training that you get from the AWS Well-Architected Partner Program and you're applying it to the hands-on labs for free, and that way, you can you have a nice way of a safe way, I should say, of using the cloud because you're not putting in your credit card for a free trial. But anyways, the main thing that the AWS Well-Architected framework offers, though, is the AWS Well-Architected tool. All right, which is seen over here. All right, this is where you can test your designs. So you can create a design with the different services that you want to use and your intended use case, right? And then AWS will test it on specific workloads, identify any issues that it has with that specific workload, and then it allows you to also record improvements that you make with your design, so that you have documentation to give to your boss or different developers working with you. All right. Additionally, this AWS well-architected framework, all right, it follows six pillars. All right, so these are the six pillars that define well-architected infrastructure within AWS, and that is operational excellence, meaning they can run and monitor systems correctly. Security, meaning that you protect your systems. Reliability, all right, this ensures that all works properly, like your whole infrastructure works properly, and even if there is a failure, it's able to recover very, very fast. Then there is also performance efficiency. So this is choosing the correct type or services for the best performance. Then there's cost optimization. So this means spending as little as money as possible for your intended workload. And then sustainability, which this just means that this cloud infrastructure that you build uses very, very less amount of electricity and energy, and therefore is more eco-friendly. All right. So this is the first thing that I learned. All right. The well-architected tool. Afterwards, I learned about the Amazon S3, and as you can see, I'm actually even right now logged into a temporary account created by AWS themselves. So my credit card or anything is not tied to this. But anyways, the Amazon S3 allows us to store and retrieve any amount of data from anywhere, as it says. All right. But the important thing that I learned about it is that it's meant to host static data. So data that's not going to change at all. All right. So that could be like images, right? That could be different files like PDF. That could also be HTML, CSS files, because you're never going to change them. But just make sure that these are static websites, meaning that there is no, server-side scripting language on it or anything like that, which requires a web server, because Amazon S3 will host these static websites, but without a web server. All right, and that's what we actually learned about through the first assignment, cloud computing essential. We learned how to host static HTML content without the need for a web server, and it'll scale and do everything for us, right? Because Amazon S3 takes care of everything for us. All we do is just put in the data that we need. In this case, it has to be static data, which we are in luck with because data that we got, or the files that we got, were actually static, the HTML and CSS files. Additionally, some important concepts to know over here is that Amazon S3 is objects, all right? It stores objects. So within the object, you're going to have your data, which is your actual file, and then metadata, which describes your file, all right? And this metadata will be stored within a key value pair. Additionally, all of these different objects that you create, or different files that you create, will be stored within a container called an S3 bucket. All right. And this just is a collection of the different objects that you store, right? As I said. Now, to access your different files, it will be through the bucket. All right. So it's going to be HTTP :// your bucket name, .s3.amazonaws.com/your object name. All right. And we're going to see all of this right now. All right. Now to the practical, more hands-on approach. Go ahead and click Create Bucket. Once you do this, go ahead and give it a bucket name. All right. In this case, I'm just going to call it My Cool Static Web. All right. Very descriptive. Anyways, once you're done, everything else should be the same, except over here where you just want to go ahead and untick this and just take this one, so you acknowledge. And what we did over here is essentially allow public access to your bucket, because again, we are creating a web static hosting, all right, where we want our HTML website to be accessible to everyone. So if we block the bucket, which hosts, or I should say stores, our website, nobody will be able to see it. Nobody in the public or in the broader audience will be able to see it, right? And that kind of defeats the whole purpose of actually hosting it, right, through S3. So anyways, make sure that that is unticked. Afterwards, everything else is going to be default, and just press create a bucket. All right, and now, as you can see, we are in the buckets page, and our bucket has been created. To go to this page, you just need to go to the Amazon S3 actually, right? And you need to go to the hamburger buttons and just press buckets, and there your buckets will be. Then in my cool static bucket, right now I have no object. So let's go ahead and upload some. Again, an object has your file's data along with metadata that describes the file. So let's go ahead and just press add files. Now over here, I have both of the files that I need, which are error and index.html. So I'm going to go ahead and open them. Now, before I press upload, right, I want to actually show you guys the code. So this is for later. But anyways, in the index.html, this is what everybody will see by default. And this is just an H1 heading tag that says hosting on S3. And then how, because this website is static. Very, very stupid. Just something simple. Then in error.html, this is just whoops. And then my first paragraph. This gets hosted whenever there's an error within the server. So just make sure you actually have something proper. Again, this is just for a tutorial or like journaling purposes, so it doesn't really matter to me. Again, upload. Now you can see they have succeeded. So now that they're succeeded, we can go ahead and close out of this, and we're back to our buckets page. All right, for my cool static web. Now within this bucket, you'll see that there's several different settings. All right. Now the first one we should go to is permissions. Okay. And the reason for this, I'll actually show you. So before we go into permissions, if I go to index.html, I just click on it, I can see the different properties within this object. And specifically, I can see the object URL where I should supposedly, go ahead and see the context within this file. But if I go ahead and click it, you'll see that I actually get an access denied. And that's because while we did give the public access to our buckets, we actually need to give it a bucket policy to go ahead and solidify this. So all we need to do is go back to my cool static web, go to permissions, and in this bucket policy, you can see there's no policy. So just press edit, and then there is specific syntax that I have over here, which I'm just going to go ahead and copy, which gives everyone read access. All right, so everybody gets read access through here. Then I'm just going to press save changes. Policy has an invalid resource. Oh, that's because I did not change the bucket name. My bad. My cool static web. All right. So again, just make sure to change your bucket name. That's my bad. Let's go ahead and save these changes. There you go. As you can see, we have officially added our bucket policy and we're good to go. And so now, if I go back to my object and if I go ahead and open this, as you can see, we get the hosting on S3. How? Because this website is static. Now, this by itself is good. Like, yo, we can see this, right? Like through the HTML. This is fine. But the issue is that if we had CSS or some JavaScript code, it will not be accessible on this index.html because again, we are only showing the index.html file, right? So to allow the index.html to use CSS and JavaScript and other things that HTML allows, we need to actually configure this setting. So we need to go to properties and we need to scroll down, and as you can see, there is a static web hosting. So within here, we want to press edit, enable, and then host a static website. Then we want to give it an index document. So this is the default page of the website. For us, it's just index.html, and then an error document. So this is the file that I was referring to. So in my case, I named it error.html. We don't need any redirection rules because we're not redirecting our web page, but you could use it for that purpose as well if you wanted to. Just press save changes. Now within here, we'll get a brand new endpoint, and in this endpoint, all right, we can add CSS, JavaScript, and HTML, and it will all work in unison. It's basically like having your own little web server without any of the hassle of creating your own web server. All right. And so if we go ahead and actually go to this website, all right, it's going to take a little time at the first time, but now as you can see, it's the same thing as you know, as going over here and then opening this object ID. They're both the same thing, but the thing is that this is only hosting the index.html file. This will be hosting the CSS file, the JavaScript file, and everything else that you have, and it will all work within this this website. All right. So that's the difference between just hosting it plain on S3 and enabling the static web hosting feature within S3. All right. Again, it's not that hard to start it. As you saw, we just did it together, right? So let me just go back here, right? So as you can see, it was pretty easy, right? We just go to buckets, properties, scroll down, and static web hosting, just enable it, and that's it. We just specify the index.html file and an error file. All right, piece of cake. All right, so that's how easy it is to host your own website without any of the hassle within AWS. All right, Hamid out.